Thank you for joining laptops, tablets, desktops, and other devices for accessing your EHR. What is best for your practice? We will be starting shortly. We will wait a few more minutes for others to join us. Thank you for joining laptops, tablets, desktops, and other devices for accessing your EHR. What is best for your practice? We will be starting shortly. We will wait a few more minutes for others to join us. Thank you for joining the Biomedics webinar, laptops, tablets, desktops, and other devices for accessing your EHR. What is best for your practice? My name is Mike Hamilton, the Associate Product Manager for TrackNet PM at Biomedics, the sponsor of this webinar. Our speaker today is Dr. Michael Brody and Dr. John Juliana. Dr. Michael Brody is a nationally recognized speaker presenting on health information technologies and electronic health records. He is a featured health information technologies writer for Podiatry Management Magazine, APMA News, and the PICA newsletter. Dr. Brody received his DPM at the New York College of Podiatric Medicine, is involved in resident education at VAMC Northport, and has been in private practice for over 20 years. Dr. John Juliana, DPM, MS, is a nationally recognized speaker and author on topics pertaining to medical practice management. He is co-author of 31.5 Essentials to Running Your Medical Practice, Green Branch Publishing, founder and CEO of Collaborative Practice Solutions, CPS LLC, and holds a master's in healthcare management. He is a fellow and trustee of the American Academy of Podiatric Practice Management. He practices in Hackettstown, New Jersey. We do have 3 housekeeping notes. If you have any questions, please type them in the question box to your right. We will have time at the end of the webinar to answer some of your questions. There will be survey questions at the close of the webinar. Please take the time to answer them. We appreciate your feedback, and it will help shape future webinars. After the webinar, if you have any questions that have not been answered, you can email info@biomedics.com. At this time, I would like to introduce Dr. Michael Brody.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We're going to talk a little bit about what types of devices you want to use in your practice when setting it up in order to have the best experience, which means really the best workflow, the easiest way to do things, and how you can decide or how you can attempt to decide what might be best for you. And if I had mouse control, it would work a lot better. Thank you. Okay. Now, when deciding which devices to use, there are lots and lots of wrong answers, and the right answer is really hard to find because it's really a matter of trial and error. You try things and you might like it, you might not. And the way to do it is to talk to people, ask them what they're doing, maybe walk into a colleague's office, see how they do it, and get a feel for their workflow, because everybody is different. Everyone has a different style. Everyone has a different method. And what works well for you may not work well for the person who you work with. Okay, as I said, a lot of it depends on the style and preference. So some people may prefer laptops, some may prefer tablets, some may prefer desktops. Some people may prefer using speech dictation, some people typing, and it really depends on your personal preference, how you've practiced before, and how much of a change you want to make when you move from your paper records to your electronic records. The key here is that whatever you do, it really needs to support the way you practice and the workflow of your office. Now let's talk first about tablets. Tablets are computers that use touchscreens. There's no keyboard with them. They're very small, they're very thin, they're very light. The iPad's a great example of a tablet. It's not the only one out there, and in my opinion, it's not necessarily the best one out there, but it is the most common example of a tablet that people know of. Tablets have a number of advantages. They're small, they're lightweight, they're easy to carry around. They have a touch screen, which if you like, it actually can give you a lot of feedback in terms of tactile and move things around. It has built-in Wi-Fi, so if you have a wireless network inside of your office, it connects easily. Most tablets have front-facing cameras. They may have front and rear-facing cameras, but they have a camera so that when you're holding the tablet up to you, there's a camera pointed towards the patient, and you can use the tablet to take a picture of the patient's foot and import it directly into the EMR, which a lot of people really enjoy about tablets because it helps them to capture images in the EMR very easily. In addition, many tablets have styluses, so that way if your EMR can capture signatures, you can use a tablet to capture the signatures. Tablets also have some disadvantages. Tablets do not have a real keyboard. They have a virtual keyboard, which a lot of people do not care for. Tablet screens tend to be relatively small. The largest tablet screen these days are 10 to 11 inches. And tablets are not very durable. They do not bounce. There are some exceptions, but for the most part, you drop a tablet and you can just drop it in the garbage. So if you're going to use tablets in your office, always have two, because if you get used to a tablet and your tablet shatters and you don't have one to pick out of the drawer to use again, you're going to be out of sorts. So if you're going to use tablets, always have an extra one in the office. Tablets do not have CD drives in them, so if a patient brings you a disk with images on it, you're not going to be able to use the tablet to view the images. And tablets do not have Ethernet ports, so they cannot connect to a hardwired network. Now, I've been playing with some tablets. I've used the iPad, I've used Windows tablets, I've used Droid tablets, and I find that the small screen for me is a major detriment. It is difficult because I end up scrolling back and forth on the screen, and it's much harder to control the EMR and get data in. So after having tried a number of different tablets, which are now all sitting on my shelf, I have stopped using tablets in my practice. I do use them when I travel on planes. I load movies on them and watch the movies, and they're wonderful for that, but I do not use tablets. Also, I do not like the virtual keyboards. I like the feedback of feeling the key go down and come back up.
Yeah, Mike, if I can interject here. Good evening, everyone. This is John Giuliano. Hope all is well with everyone. I agree with Dr. Brody. While I'm a heck of a lot younger than Dr. Brody, my eyes also Just kidding, Mike. My eyes also are just not able to see everything that I like to see on a tablet. So I use a workstation in a treatment room. As Dr. Brody has mentioned, there are some huge advantages of having a tablet, particularly with the way we like to interact with patients, making eye contact with them, facing forward to them. The tablet is much more conducive to that, where a workstation in my treatment room is off to my side and it's rather bulky. And for that reason, namely, I don't necessarily spend much time interacting with the computer in my treatment room. I spend it with the patient, but it gives my staff the opportunity to interact with that workstation while I'm treating the patient at least.
What I do in the treatment room is I actually use the workstation because I bring up patients' histories, I bring up lab reports, I bring up x-ray images, and I actually do a lot of interaction with my workstation in the office. I have a workstation in each treatment room also, and in fact when I bring up images, especially x-rays, I will tend to turn the screen towards the patient so they can see it. In addition, I have a slave screen off of my computer so that way the patient can see what I'm doing at all times within their medical record.
Yeah, exactly, and certainly a tablet would be much harder for the patients to visualize things like that.
On the other hand, we'll talk about tablets. If you're traveling around or seeing patients in a nursing home or patients in a hospital, tablets can be a wonderful thing because if you can access the patient's images on a tablet bedside, maybe preoperatively, and show them the x-rays on the tablet, that is a very, very nice educational tool. So in that particular venue, tablets really do lend themselves very, very well to communicating with patients and showing what's going on. In addition, tablets that are properly configured can be used to configure consents preoperatively in the operative area. Now, convertibles are the next step up in terms of size and weight. They are larger than tablets, and they're able to switch from a tablet to a laptop. If you look at the image over here, you see the screen actually swivels, so it can be in laptop mode, or it can swivel it all the way around, fold it down, and it can act as a tablet. So it's more than a tablet, and that has more functionality, but it also has some disadvantages. The advantages are, once again, it's small, it's easily transportable. It also has a touch screen, so all the aspects of a touch screen are still available to you. It has a full keyboard. Once again, it has Wi-Fi. Very often, it will also have a built-in camera for you to take pictures of patients, and it does have the stylus. On the other hand, because it's larger than a tablet, it's heavier than a tablet, and it's a little more durable. But once again, they do not bounce. So if you're going to use a convertible and carry it around, keep an extra one in your office. Convertibles also usually do not have a CD drive. There's an exception. The Panasonic Toughbook convertibles do have CD drives, but those tend to cost 3 to 4 times as much as the other tablets out there. And many of the tablets don't have Ethernet ports. I think tablets are a great option if you want something small. I think it's better off than convertibles are a great option. I think they're a better option than a tablet because the keyboard allows you to enter information more easily. The virtual keyboards, I find, can be difficult to use. John?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I haven't had much experience with the convertibles, but for me that would likely be a better option than a tablet. But I do agree with you that the tablets for nursing home or other facility type use has big advantages.
Next size up is a laptop, and hopefully everybody's familiar with a laptop, what they are and how they work, and they have their own set of advantages and disadvantages. Once again, they're small. They're larger than the other two, but they still are small. But you can get laptops with much larger screens. I've seen laptops available with up to 17-inch screens, and they're making very thin ones these days that really are not terribly heavy. They have a full keyboard. They're still easily transportable. They have Wi-Fi. Now you have devices that have CD and DVD drives. So if a patient walks into your office with a CD of images from their MRI, you can actually bring them up on your laptop, and a laptop has an Ethernet port. I've been in many offices where there are computers in the treatment room, and the computers in the treatment rooms actually are laptops and not desktop computers, which is a lot easier in terms of space to set up in the office and in the treatment area, and gives the doctor the ability to pick it up and leave and go someplace with it if they have to. So it really gives a lot of flexibility using these if you're going to use computers in your treatment rooms. The disadvantages of a laptop is you've just lost that front-facing camera that allows you to take images of the patient's foot and import it directly into the EMR. Now you have to use a digital camera. You don't have a touch screen, you don't have a stylus, so if you like using those and you want to capture signatures, you're not going to be able to do that with a typical laptop. Laptops also are heavier than the tablets and the convertibles, therefore they are portable, but they're not terribly portable. They're more sturdy, but still they don't bounce, and once again the potential disadvantages, they are heavy. John, any comments there?
Yeah, I would say that the laptop alternative is definitely an emerging concept that most practices that I'm working with seem to like the best.
Now, here's a way you can actually use a laptop in the office and get some even additional functionality to it. Now, it's a kiosk. It's not really a computer. It's a cart that you put the computer on. Now, here you have a laptop where it's on the cart. Therefore, it's less likely to bounce. And you can actually have the printer on it. You see in the image on the right that the laptop there has the entire PadNet system on it. So you take a laptop computer, put it on a cart, bundle it with other equipment, and that way you can sit down and you have a system that you can move from room to room to room. It's semi-portable, but it also has a lot of flexibility there, and it's a very, very good option when you're using combined diagnostic tools such as the PadNet.
That's precisely how most practices are using PadNet, in fact.
You know, the advantage of the keyboard, you can have a much larger screen on there because it's sitting on a cart. Once again, full keyboard. It's not going to bounce as likely because that laptop is sitting on top on a tabletop. It's semi-transportable to move from room to room. It really is not going to leave your office, and it can hold printers and other devices. The disadvantages are it's only semi-portable. You're not going to take this, pick it up, and take it to the hospital with you. And kiosks, the carts themselves, can be expensive, especially as you add on more bells and whistles and features to the cart. Now, when we talk about kiosks, kiosks are extremely well suited to environments where you're going to move the equipment around from room to room, and the PadNet is a great example of that. In addition, they're suited well to large clinics or hospitals where you want to have one computer that can go to room to room to room without having to outfit every single room with a computer. So in that case, it works out very nicely. Kiosks, generally speaking, if you're not bundling it with additional hardware, can be a little bit bulky for small practices having to roll them up and down the hallways. John, anything you want to add on this?
The only disadvantage that I see of having a kiosk as your sole entry point for data is the fact that only one person is going to be able to interact with it at a time, whereas in most practices, including mine and I believe yours also, Mike, an assistant is having some interaction while at the same time we're with patients, or they're having interaction with the electronic health record in other treatment rooms with a patient, gathering meaningful use data and other information while we're using either a laptop or some other type of desktop within another treatment room.
Well, what I have seen is practices where the assistant goes through from room to room, gathering meaningful use, getting the vitals, etc., and the assistant walks around and has a kiosk, and on that kiosk they've got their tools to collect the blood pressure and other tools that allow them to collect various pieces of information necessary for meaningful use. They've got clipboards on there for patients to fill out, and the assistant actually has their dedicated kiosk that they take with them from room to room to room. In the meantime, there are computers in the treatment rooms for the doctors to use, and the assistant is using the kiosk for the other options.
I see. Yep.
Now, desktop computers are what we've all grown up with. At least I grew up with. I don't think they were around when John was younger. He was born in the world of tablets. But desktops are very, very nice. They are the standard computer. You've got the screen, you've got the keyboard, the mouse, and the computer. Now, desktops have their own set of advantages. Desktops can have extremely large screens. In fact, I just picked up a couple of 23-inch flat screens for one of my treatment rooms, which are very nice. In fact, desktops very often allow you to connect multiple screens and use them in a way that you really can use to your advantage, where you can mirror the screens or you can have the screen split and have functionality on each of the screens. They have full keyboards, they have Ethernet ports, and the nicest thing about a desktop is that a desktop you can upgrade. You're starting to run low on hard disk space, you can add another hard drive. You can upgrade the memory. There's a lot of room in a desktop to upgrade it, so a desktop does not become obsolete as quickly as a tablet or a convertible or a laptop, which are very difficult to upgrade because everything is built into the motherboard. Disadvantage of the desktop is it's not portable and it doesn't have a built-in battery. Now, the disadvantage of not having a built-in battery is if you're working with a device like a laptop or a tablet that has a built-in battery and you lose power in your practice, your machine is not going to go down. It's not going to stop functioning. Whereas a desktop, since it does not have a built-in battery, it doesn't have the ability to function if it doesn't have power. So whenever you have a desktop, you want to make sure that's plugged into something known as a UPS, an uninterruptible power supply, or a battery backup. So that way, if you happen to have a power surge or lose power momentarily, the computer does not shut down on you. John, any comments here?
No, this is certainly my favorite way of doing things. We have a desktop in every treatment room, which which is very thin, very lightweight, but it certainly has other disadvantages, as we've talked about, where I don't really interact other than like you, Mike, looking at patient records from the past, looking at blood work, looking at X-rays, showing X-rays to the patients. I don't make the actual charting or perform the charting function in the treatment room as a result of having to turn my side to the patient. I do the charting outside of the treatment room at a different workstation.
Right, that's where you and I differ slightly in our styles, because I actually will be charting as we're talking, but I can be facing the patient and I'm charting with one hand and facing the other, but I've had about 40 or 50 more years experience with keyboards, I think, so.
You're a multitasker. I'm not.
Yeah, I'm also a dinosaur, so. Okay, now next thing I wanted to talk about is computer placement. Where do you want to have your computers? How do you want to have them placed? And this is very important because wherever you have a computer, you're going to have to think about power outlets, Ethernet ports, the cost of the computer, so how many computers you're going to have. There are wireless considerations to consider because wireless networking is, relatively speaking, much less secure than a wired network. Also, building construction will be an issue because how is the construction? Are you going to be able to run the wires, run the Ethernet ports? In addition, certain types of building construction can interfere with wireless communications. So you need to do a site survey of your office and determine what is realistic, what can you do, are you constrained by the physical space you're in? And these are things you need to consider when trying to figure out what you're going to use in your office because you may want to do something that your building or your space simply won't support.
Yeah, I think this is critically important. In fact, one of the things that we emphasize very strongly from the starting point of an electronic health record adoption is that you really do a workflow study of your practice. Really act as a patient and walk through your practice as if you were that patient and really get to see the points of interaction that your staff has and that the physicians have, and write this down. Actually make a flow map of the practice with all of the points of interaction, and it's going to give you a very insightful look as to where you need to position these workstations and what your best options are going to be.
Now, we talked a little bit about this in our discussions back and forth, but here we're going to be, shall we say, formal about it and talk about using computers in the treatment rooms. The advantages of having it in the treatment room is that it gives you easy access to patient information in the treatment room. It's easy to use the computers to show the patient medical images such as x-rays, and it allows for entry of the chart while the patient's in front of you. So that way I use it because when I go through things, I tend to look and double-check things and confirm things in the chart and check off that I've confirmed them. The disadvantage is that computers do take up valuable space in that treatment room, and that space in the treatment room is Very, very important, because you want to use that space for things that are going to treat the patient, and the computer really is not treating the patient. Also, as John will talk about, the computer can really cause a disconnect between the doctor and the patient.
Yeah, I think as a little insight to what Dr. Brody and I have the privilege of doing throughout 2012, which is the PICA Risk Management Series, we're going to be focusing a lot on the caveats of computers in the treatment room and the whole electronic health record initiative, whereby we really have to pay attention to the fact that there's a patient in front of us and we can't be interrupted, or we can't be somehow our attention can't be diverted to things like meaningful use when we have the patient in front of us. And this is why it's critical to really reassign staff during the whole EHR adoption to be sure that you're delegating tasks to them, such as the inputting of data and the recording of blood pressure and the recording of smoking status and many other meaningful use criteria, so that we can stay focused on the staff. Many physicians that I speak to and consult with, in fact, are not quite used to the whole art of delegating. They've done a lot themselves throughout history, and this is a time really where you have to not only draw the workflow of your practice, but also take a look at job descriptions and figure out who's going to do what, when, where, and how as you go through the adoption of the electronic health record. Or even if you're using it actively already, it's time to perhaps redesign the way that you've done things for many years to make this more efficient, and to be sure that no matter what alternative you're using it in a manner that's not going to interfere with the real or the perceptual care that you give to the patient.
Right, and that speaks to, in the past, the warning was, remember to treat the patient, not the insurance plan. Now you have to say, remember that you are treating the patient, you are not treating the computer, and your focus really needs to be on the patient. The computer is nothing but a tool that you're going to use, but your focus needs to remain with the patient. Okay, we've gone over a lot of issues that can possibly come up with setting up your computers in your office, and John and I have shared some of our experiences in our offices, but that gives you the experience of two offices. We both have the opportunity to walk into many other doctors' offices and see what they do, but hoping maybe you could share what your experiences were. So if you have any interesting experiences or issues that have come up, please type a question in, so that way we can see type it in the question box so we can see what's going on, and we can discuss the issues that you have had with computers in your office.
And Melody, do we have an opportunity to do some polling here to see what our 35 attendees are doing?
Why, yes, we do. We can go ahead and start with the first one. I'm going to go ahead and launch this poll. Do you prefer tablets, laptops, or desktops?
Okay, so a majority of the people here prefer laptops. That's not surprising because, as I said before, laptops can function as pseudo-desktops in the treatment room and do have a certain amount of portability. So the majority like laptops, second is desktops. The least favorite one are the tablets. Can anyone who has had a tablet and doesn't like it tell us why they did not like that tablet? Okay, Peter has an Asus EEE tablet. It's a touch screen. He can hold it in his hands, look at the patient, send out prescriptions immediately, and education materials. So it looks like Peter is using the tablet almost like a clipboard in order to, and he's using it in a way that doesn't prevent him from interacting with the patient, and that's a great use of a tablet. And let's see, Susan uses an Asus tablet in a protective sleeve with a separate remote keyboard in each treatment room, and that's working very well. Well, that solves the problem of the keyboard issue, and if that's working well for you, that's great, and that's something people may want to try. Susan, do you ever move the tablet, or is it basically a stationary device? I'd like to know that. In the meantime, Kevin has a question. How do you transfer data from the iPad to the server? Well, typically when you're using an iPad or a tablet, you actually are working directly on the server through something known as a remote desktop connection or terminal services. So the tablet, you're actually using it as a window to connect to the server, and there's no computing actually being done on the tablet. You're really using a wireless connection to the server and doing all your computing actually on the server. And Susan said that she moves the tablet as needed from one place to another, so it uses it in a portable manner, even though she has it in a protective sleeve and the remote keyboard. Anybody else want to share their experiences with tablets?
If not, we could bring up the second polling question, Melody.
The next one is, are you currently using a tablet to access your EHR?
Okay, once again, the minority of people are using tablets, only 29%. Most people are not using tablets. Let's see. I think we pretty much covered the question of tablets, so let's move on to the next poll question.
Next we have, are you currently using a desktop to access your EHR?
And here we see the majority of people are using desktops. What I find surprising is that about a third of the people responding are not using a desktop at all, and your office is either a completely laptop or a combination of laptop, convertible, and tablet. And that does surprise me. I would expect that most of the people would have at least one desktop in their office for accessing the EHR. But this speaks to the desire for many doctors to be as portable as possible and as flexible as possible. Does anyone want to talk about their experience with laptops? Okay. Has anybody here ever had a problem where they dropped their laptop, tablet, or convertible computer and it broke and they suddenly were without it and had to go to a backup system? Because that, for me, is one of the major concerns of portable computing. And I'm seeing no, let's see.
Peter is somebody who actually uses the offline mode of TrackNet so that he could take it home and access his EMR from home, which is a great function of the software.
Okay, and Vince is asking a question, how many people here utilize a combination of laptops and desktops in their office? Can we set up a poll quickly on that particular question?
Can't actually pull on that question per se, but we can always do the next one about how many are currently using laptops to access their EHR to find out.
Okay, yep. or we can ask everyone who is using both tablets and laptops in their office to simply raise their hand using the feature in the control panel.
Yeah, let's do the next poll, Melody. That'll give us an idea of comparison to the desktop.
Okay, so most people who are here are using a laptop to access their EHR, so it looks like a lot of people are using a combination of both, and
Right.
laptops seem to be definitely the device of choice.
Right. Michael, with a laptop, do you go offline? Excuse me, with a tablet, do you go offline in a similar way that you use a laptop offline?
Well, for me, I really don't per se go offline because my laptop has Wi-Fi and I have a 4G connection. So whenever I want to connect, I don't have to be in offline mode. I simply use my Verizon wireless modem, and I actually go through remote desktop connection and connect
Right.
directly. So I really never truly work in offline mode because I've got my devices configured that I'm always, shall we say, connected.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I log right into my server at the office. Is there another poll, Melody?
Why, yes, there is. The next one is, do you use a hardwired workstation in the treatment rooms?
Okay, most people are not using hardwired workstations in their treatment rooms, and this is a answer that leaves me slightly uneasy because earlier in the lecture I mentioned that wireless networks are inherently much less secure than a wired network, and I would encourage everyone who's using their workstations in the treatment rooms to look at running Ethernet wires into your treatment rooms. In addition, if you're a PICA policyholder, there's a lecture up in PICA about wireless security and how to make sure your routers are properly configured, because this is a great way for people to break into your networks. I am definitely not a fan of wired networks, and when I redid my office, I had an electrician come in, and I have 2 Ethernet ports in every single treatment area, so that way I never have to use a wireless connection in my office. They concern me significantly in terms of HIPAA security. Okay, does anybody have any questions on anything that we've gone over today, or have anything else they want to share with us? John, do you have anything additional to add? Because I think I've covered everything I need to and want to tonight.
Nope, I think that was very comprehensive, and I think the polling gave everybody some great insight on how their peers are using the software and the combination of hardwares. I don't see any more questions coming in, so we'll turn it over. Oh, wait a minute. Yep, there's a question, Mike. Is there a recommend? Go ahead.
Is there a recommended tablet brand model? Well, that really, once again, depends on your personal preference. And so when you come to tablets, you have 3 major operating systems available to you. You have the Apple, you've got Android models, and you've got Windows tablets. Windows tablets right now I would avoid because Windows requires a heck of a lot of power, and therefore the tablets running Windows tend to be very, very slow and difficult to work with. So for at the moment, I would avoid Windows tablets, though Fujitsu has just come out with a couple of nice ones, but they're relatively new and not battle tested, so we don't know how durable they are. So for the moment, I think you're better off using an Android or an iPad device and using terminal services or connecting directly through the app for TrackNet. But I don't think Windows tablets are a good way to go at the moment. John, are iPads compatible with TrackNet? You want to take that one?
Yes, they are. I would definitely contact your biomedics support team for that to be sure that you're up to the proper requirements, but I do know people using iPads.
Okay, some people are saying that the Asus tablets are running Windows 7 Professional and they are very fast. I have not had a chance to play with the Asus tablets. They're relatively new, and once again, I'm not familiar with them, but most of the Windows tablets I've seen really have not done incredibly well. John, have you had a chance to look at the Asus tablets?
No, no experience with them at all.
Okay. And question from Kevin, do I have the same security concerns using wireless laptop as with wireless desktops? My concern is with wireless, whether it be a tablet, convertible, desktop, smartphone, or desktop computer with wireless. My concern is the wireless communications.
Any other questions? Type them right in.
Okay, once again, someone's asking if iPads are compatible with the DPM edition of TrackNet, and yes, they are. Okay, John, you want to take this question about TrackNet being designed to run on a PC, unable to use the iPad remotely since it's Mac?
Yeah, I'm not qualified to answer that regarding the remote login using an iPad. That would be something I would defer to, to the biomedics team.
And Kevin's asking me if my laptop is wired. Yes, it is. When I walk into a treatment with my laptop, I've got the Ethernet there, cable sitting there on the table, and I pop it right in. So yes, my laptop's actually using wired mode. I do not have a wireless network turned on in my office.
That's the way I've seen it done for everybody who's using laptops, pretty much.
Okay, let's see. Okay, question, does a wireless network violate HIPAA high-tech? Wireless networks do not violate HIPAA high-tech, but when you have a wireless network, in order to be compliant, you have to make sure that you've instituted all appropriate security in your wireless network and documented all the security that you put into it. And there can be a lot of security, and depending on the size of your practice and how many doctors are involved, you may have to put in some very, very advanced security. The most basic security is the security built into your wireless router. Then you have intrusion detection and protection devices that you may have to have on the system, depending on how many doctors you have, because a good intrusion protection device costs about $5,000, has to be configured. If you have an office of 3 or 4 doctors, then it's reasonable to go through that expense, and you'd be expected to do so. In addition, you can increase your security by adding in radius servers. So if you're going to use wireless and you have a practice of more than 3 or 4 doctors, you have to make sure you're using security above and beyond what's available just in the wireless router. Okay, John, are you collecting electronic signatures using? You use a tablet, or you said you don't use a tablet?
No, I don't. I use a workstation, a regular desktop in every treatment room.
Okay. Okay, question, are we using digital x-rays, and what system can you recommend? John, do you have digital x-rays in your office?
I do. I have 20/20 imaging, which integrates with TrackNet. It's on a separate server, and each patient's chart has the capability of letting me view the x-rays right through the patient's chart because it's fully integratable with TrackNet.
Okay, I also have digital imaging, but I have the Air Techniques All Pro system, which currently is not integrated with TrackNet, and so I have to send files back and forth. But I prefer that because it uses the same style plates that I'm used to. So if I need to take a picture of a patient in the treatment chair, it's a lot easier to, shall we say, move the x-ray machine and take pictures of patients who are either in treatment chairs or preoperatively, etc., and it's much more flexible. So I'm living with the disadvantage of that it's not fully integrated for that flexibility.
There's a question from Glenn that I do want to again defer right to biomedics because I'm not quite certain how the iPad is used with TrackNet. Again, I'm a PC user. but I'm fairly certain there were people using it successfully, but I'm not 100% certain of that, so please contact the customer support.
When I played with the iPad and with TrackNet, I opened up a terminal services window. I downloaded a application that does terminal services and actually connected to a workstation. So I basically used the iPad to control a workstation and wirelessly use terminal services to control a workstation to operate TrackNet. TrackNet was not running on the iPad. The iPad was basically a remote control for my computer.
Okay. So then maybe it was you that I spoke to.
Could be, but that's known as terminal services. And it works reasonably well, but as I said, I don't like tablets because the screen is simply too small for me. Okay, will TrackNet accept a digital signature from a signature pad connected to the PC? John, I don't use signature pads, so I don't know what I don't.
Yeah, I don't either.
What I have done is I've used the tablets to collect a digital signature, saved it as an image, and attached it as an image to the chart. But I have not used signature pads.
And I've done the exact same thing as you, Mike.
Okay, do we have any other questions coming in? Your modem will only accept 4 Ethernet cables. How would you connect a 5th PC? Well, actually, you're not talking about a modem there. You're talking about your either switch or router. If you don't have enough ports on your switch or router, then go to Best Buy, Staples, and buy a Ethernet switch. Not a router, a switch, because a router tends to assign IP addresses where a switch will not. And you take the switch and you take the output from your current router, take it to the input of the switch, and you take one port and you can turn it into 4, 8, or 16. But you want to make sure you get a switch and not a router. That way you can expand your routers and add more ports. We have a question from Patricia asking if anybody here is using a signature pad who's listening. If anyone's using a signature pad, if they could give us some feedback on how that's working. Okay, no one's responding, so it does not appear that anyone who is here today is using a signature pad. Mark Green. Yes, signature pads work quite well, so he's using it currently. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. I'd like to thank everyone for attending. And actually, Patricia asked which signature pad. Patricia, there are lots of signature pads out there. The most common brand I've seen is Topaz. Mark, which brand are you using? Mark does not know which brand he's using, but the most common brand out there is Topaz, and a lot of people who have them say that they work well, though Misha says that she has a signature pad, but the program that with it is unstable. Misha, what brand are you using? Watch, it's going to be Topaz, which I just said. No. Okay, well, we're not getting a response there. But once again, you're not sure, but it's in the VA system. The VAs do not use Topaz devices. I forget the brand. I actually work at a VA hospital every Monday, and so I've seen them, but they're not Topazes. Okay, once again, I'd like to thank everyone for attending. Hopefully you learned a little bit today. If you have any questions concerning this lecture, please send an email to Biomedics, and Mike will be glad to give the information, and John and I will get the question. We'll get back to you as soon as possible. Okay, question, can I recommend a scanner? Kevin, what type of scanner are you talking about? Are you talking about a scanner for paper, a scanner for credit cards, a scanner for insurance cards? Paper labs, etc. Okay, John, do you have a scanner in your office for scanning papers?
We do, and I knew you were going to ask me that because now I'm drawing a blank. We have a very good high-speed scanner that's capable of doing many pages very fast. I will definitely give the information to Biomedics, and in fact, they recommended this one to me, and for the life of me, I can't think of the brand of it. But we scan everything. We scan our labs. We scan everything into the patient's chart.
Okay, what I have is I've got a Canage image class. It's a multifunction machine. It does scanning, it does copying, it does duplex printing. It's not terribly fast, but it works fairly well. I had it since before all this new EMR stuff, and I've actually used it and had my secretary scan in every single chart for all my patients, so I'm totally digital. I have no patient charts left. And it's been a very nice little workhorse. I picked it up at Staples for about $600, and because it's a copier, fax, and scanner, I've been extremely happy with it. And John, Susan's saying that Biomedics recommended the Fujitsu scanner. Is that the one that you have?
I think that is it. Yes. Thank you, Susan.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Well, with that being it, I'd like to call this webinar a success. John, thank you for teaming with me on this. It's nice to work with younger guys every once in a while.
Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for attending. Melody, do you have any closing statements?
Yeah, this is actually Mike Hamilton, and I just wanted to say thank you to Dr. Brody and Dr. Juliana, and to all the attendees who joined us for laptops, tablets, desktops, and other devices for accessing your EHR. What is best for your practice? For more information about Biomedics or our products, please visit biomedics.com, call 877-854-0014, or email info@biomedics.com. For more information on upcoming webinars and trade shows, visit the events page at biomedics.com. Please remember to fill out the short survey. Your feedback is appreciated. Thank you for your time, and we are adjourned.